like a B movie. Millions of males vanish. Fact is, there aren't as many nowadays. Not human males, not frogs, not fish.
Chemicals are moving us into a period of the most rapid evolution that this species has ever experienced.
From toys to shampoo, we're awash in strange new compounds, and we're only just learning that males are being hit hardest.
The scientists within Health Canada are telling the government, listen, you really have to move on this.
I'm Anne-Marie MacDonald. This Doc Zone asks, where have all the boys gone? There are many warning signs. A growing body of evidence shows that something is wrong with the sexual health of human males. Sperm counts worldwide have been cut in half in the last 50 years. Sperm abnormalities and rates of male infertility have radically increased. Rates of testicular cancer have doubled in the last 20 years. The question is, why? Scientists now believe that certain man-made chemicals are to blame. They interfere with the male hormonal system and are playing havoc with the basic building blocks of male sexual development. The problem is, these chemicals are everywhere. There was a time, not too long ago, when the Earth was a simpler place. 60 years ago, synthetic chemicals were a futuristic novelty. Since that time, the chemical industry has developed more than 90,000 man-made compounds, and the vast majority of them have never been tested for their effects on human beings.
During the last 50 years, we've learned how to create new chemicals and we've turned them loose. In the next 50, we may figure out what we've done.
It's like in a certain way we're on the Titanic and we see the iceberg, but we just can't turn the ship.
These chemicals are found in virtually every consumer product. Chemicals like bisphenol A make plastics hard and unbreakable. Other chemicals called phthalates make plastics soft and pliable. Chemicals make cosmetics smell fresh and fragrant. They make our fabrics stain-resistant and our computers flame-resistant. But have we unleashed a monster? Some common chemicals are causing profound and permanent damage to growing bodies. And for reasons we are just beginning to understand, some synthetic chemicals are far more damaging to boys.
I feel that every child should be able to live up to their innate potential, whatever it may be, but we're taking that away from them. We're taking that away from our kids. Now, why isn't it being publicized? I think it's because it's so scary.
Young adult men are also at risk. Sperm counts in college-age men have fallen dramatically in recent decades. A typical young man produces less than half of the sperm his father did, and up to 85% of it is abnormal. In a fertility clinic at the University of Rochester, researchers are tracking the crisis in the quality of male sperm. This change in the quality and amount of sperm has been sudden and dramatic.
I've been here 12 years, and when I first started, of the 10 donors we would screen, we would accept maybe 7 or 8. They had really good counts, really good motility. Over time, it got harder and harder to recruit donors because we noticed of that same college-age population that of 10 people who would try out for our program, maybe 3 or 4 would have the sperm parameters that we need.
The bottom line is that the World Health Organization standards for classifying a man as infertile have moved downwards. So, for example, very early it was 60 million per milliliter, then down to 40 million per milliliter. Now it's 20 million per milliliter, and they're talking about putting it down to 10. And that's because if a man goes in for a semen analysis, you can't have too many of them classified as abnormal.
Behind the statistics are hundreds of thousands of young couples like Jack and Natalie McGowan who have struggled to conceive.
Now you're going to go get changed. I was shocked what the incidence of infertility is in our society now. And when we would go to the clinic for assessments and for procedures, it was like being in an emergency room. I mean, people were lined up down the corridors.
We were very surprised to have difficulties conceiving because we were 2 otherwise very healthy people. So we thought, no problem. We'd be pregnant within weeks, really.
There's 3 things they use to assess sperm quality, and it's volume, so sperm count, and speed, so that's how mobile they are. It's mobility or motility, I think is how they call it. And the 3rd is morphology. So I had a full team, good bench strength, and they were pretty quick, but they were darn stupid. They got lost. And of course they didn't ask for directions. So.
Our reproductive endocrinologist even came out and he said, well, it's probably linked to environmental causes. He didn't go into specifics.
No.
But he did say.
After 2 years and several fertility treatments, the McGowans were finally able to conceive.
It's clear to me that what we're putting in the environment has been affecting us, and I've been aware of it for a long time. I don't see how there couldn't be an impact of our environment on my personal ability to reproduce. I think it's definitely implicated in some way.
The idea that chemicals can affect male fertility and reproduction in dramatic ways is an established fact for wildlife biologists. Since the late 1980s, Louis Gillette has been researching the sexual development of male alligators who nest in the heavily polluted lakes of central Florida.
What we deal with when we deal with these lakes is a complex mixture of pesticides, of nutrients, fertilizers. Many of the chemicals we're dealing with are what we call old chemicals, DDT. They're persistent chemicals.
Gillette has discovered that the sexual organs of the male alligators in these lakes are 1/3 their normal size. The reproduction rate in this colony is 90% below average.
Snag. Good deal. Perfect animal.
We're at the point now where we have evidence suggesting that pesticides have the ability to actually alter the development, for example, of the testis, alter the development of the phallus.
Great snag, Russ.
The abnormalities in the testis were related to low testosterone levels. Basically, the little alligators that we were studying as males had testosterone levels similar to what we see in females. But they also had, for example, smaller penis size, which was a marker of a lifetime abnormality in testosterone.
Ah, look at that. Un macho.
The strong evidence that chemicals cause sexual abnormalities goes well beyond the study of wildlife.
I was extremely frustrated in the mid-1990s because no one could answer my questions about what these things are doing on children. The work on the feminization of alligators had come out. Other work on wildlife had come out showing drastic impacts. And little boys or men are no different than alligators in terms of their general makeup. So why shouldn't it be affecting humans if it's affecting wildlife?
Of course there are differences. It's not a one-to-one relationship. But I do believe that our work is a sentinel for human health. I believe that our work is a sentinel for the health of babies, human babies.
The testes are part of the male endocrine system, the network of glands that regulate many of the body's functions. They stimulate growth, regulate our metabolism, and control reproduction. These glands release hormones that are the body's chemical messengers. The sex hormone testosterone is a chemical messenger that plays a central role in male sexual development. Some synthetic chemicals can disrupt or block the functioning of testosterone in the body, permanently damaging the sexual development of male children. This disruption of the human body's own system may be the greatest unintended consequence of the 20th century's chemical revolution. The chemical industry is only 100 years old, but it has transformed the world. The Second World War accelerated demand for countless new products: prescription drugs, food additives, synthetic rubber, nylon, and pesticides. By the early 1950s, the chemical industry was churning out hundreds and then thousands of new compounds. One product revolutionized the way we live: plastic. Virtually all of these new chemical compounds were derived from one source: petroleum. Synthetic chemicals made modern life possible. At first, few suspected that synthetic chemicals might be dangerous. Pesticides like DDT were seen as innocuous, even beneficial. By the 1960s, though, our natural habitat was telling a different story, as certain chemicals like PCBs and dioxin devastated the environment.
From the early 40s on, those people who are of childbearing age were exposed to these chemicals in excessive amounts. And consequently, by 1950, the first generation of children exposed to these chemicals were born.
Those most threatened by toxic chemicals are not adults. They are children and babies. But the most vulnerable of all have not even been born.
There is no question that the most serious effects are to the unborn child, because the effects are permanent and because the fetus has very few defenses against these chemicals.
This is a time when all the cells are starting to divide from each other, developing into organs. And this can start as early as 6 weeks, even earlier, after conception.
Until recently, doctors believed that the fetus was protected from contamination by the placental barrier. But the womb provides no such protection.
Everything that the mother is exposed to could potentially expose the fetus. The difference is that the fetus is exquisitely sensitive, many, many more times more sensitive than the mother, and so it's much more dangerous.
For several weeks after conception, the embryo is neither male nor female. Sex hormones orchestrate the process that determines whether the fetus will be a boy or a girl. In the 7th week of pregnancy, the male reproductive tract begins developing. Chemical exposures are likely behind a 200% increase in male genital birth defects.
This is where a boy starts becoming a boy. If he can't get past that stage with all the processes that have to take place, that are taking place under very, very low concentrations of hormones, that boy isn't going to make it to full manhood in terms of what you want in a man.